Now it's early 2025 and you might have bought a cinema camera in the last couple of months. Particularly for me, I have the Blackmagic Pixis. And this thing isn't cheap. You're gonna have to spend a lot of money getting batteries and different things for lenses, and you're gonna have to get memory cards and different rigging, and all of that stuff could add up, which kind of begs the question, how do you make the money back? In today's video, we're gonna talk about the 10 different ways that you can make money while using your cinema camera. Now this video isn't sponsored by Blackmagic or any other cinema camera company, but today's sponsor is going to be HoneyBook. Generally speaking, if you're gonna be making money with your camera, you're gonna have to work with clients. And HoneyBook is a leading client relationship management tool that you can use in order to make your life a little bit easier. They're also giving $10,000 away in prizes, but well, we'll get there. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about, and probably the more frequent thing that I've been doing in order to earn money back on my camera purchases, is actually doing small form Google ad production. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than a traditional commercial, mostly because you can do this in a pretty small crew, or maybe you have 2 or 3 friends that can help you out on set. Over the last couple of years, I've worked for a variety of different companies who are making things that particularly are going to go on Google, Facebook, or Instagram. Typically speaking, it's going to be 4x5 or vertical content. The scaling of the production is going to be a little bit smaller. We're typically making a bunch of videos in one day, so we can use things like Facebook marketing and Google AdSense in order to create ads for certain projects for smaller companies. This is actually great, especially if you have clients that let you know if ads are performing. That way you can not only use it as data for different companies if you want to get more clients, but at the same time you're able to see the effectiveness of working with a small crew but still being able to generate revenue for different clients. Also, because I have the Pixis in my hand, I like that a lot because you can shoot an open gate. So if I need to shoot for different aspect ratios, I'm able to do that on this camera, but you could use any cinema camera, that's fine, or you could actually kind of use any camera and that's fine. As long as you have great lighting, great audio, and a camera that can capture quality, you're going to be able to work on some of those things with different clients in order for you to make some of that money back relatively quickly. The second thing is going to be corporate video production. Now, this can be in a variety of different ways. I've done a couple of corporate videos before, and one thing that I'll say is that they're actually pretty easy to do. If you're pretty decent at getting an interview lighting set up and getting some B-roll on the day, then you're going to be just fine with corporate video. Now, the hard part might be is actually finding those corporate clients. You could do it in a couple of different ways. There's more resources that are way smarter than me in terms of using LinkedIn in order to get different corporate clients, but you could also go to a local chamber of commerce, or you could use word of mouth. And also, if you have friends that are already in corporate environments, perhaps making a couple of interviews to work as a demo reel, sending it to some of your friends, and maybe they could put it up through your offices to see if maybe you could actually get some corporate video clients from there. Generally speaking, a lot of these larger companies are going to have to use money one way or another, and oftentimes video production to actually give assets to that company to actually make it better is one way of doing it. They also could just pay to the government at the end of the year, but I feel like this is a lot better use of your money. Pay your taxes though. Now, when talking about different forms of production, you're probably going to be working with the C word. Clients. And when working with different clients, you're going to need a professional looking streamlined system in order to not only make your process a bit easier, but also as things look a little bit more professional, it helps you justify your price. This is where we're going to talk about today's sponsor, which is going to be HoneyBook. Now, when you're starting off, it is probably a little bit more difficult finding a professional way to streamline your process between booking and sending invoices, and also sending reminders for those invoices, because sometimes people forget to pay you, and having to manually do that every single week or every single month in order to give that gentle nudge can get a little bit annoying. HoneyBook has the ability to make every step of the process when working with different clients look professional and personalized. And when you're working with different clients, especially the ones that are going to be paying your bills, making them feel as special as possible, especially when you have to justify a high price tag, is something that's going to help out a lot more in the long run. Even in the short run, if you're fumbling around with different PDFs and Word documents to send to your clients in a disorganized way, it's going to make you feel like you're a little bit cheaper, and maybe those invoices might be a bit more spaced out. Although I hope they're not. I hope you're getting paid on time. In fact, I've been using HoneyBook for my YouTube partnerships since 2023. Now, we're going to talk about sponsors a little bit later in this video in terms of an income source, but with the agency that I've been working with, we've been able to have a personalized portal. So each brand that we work with has a personalized and streamlined experience, and also on the back end, I could track down different contracts that I might have forgotten to sign. I could track down how much revenue is coming in from the channel in terms of sponsorships, and I could see where the status is in different brand partnerships and things that are coming up. Now, in January only, you can start your free trial by hitting the link in the description down below. Fun fact, HoneyBook's actually giving away $10,000 in prizes and resources to make your 2025 the best year for your business yet. A special shout out to HoneyBook for sponsoring this video, but let's talk about some of the other ways that you can make money on returning on your investment. Now, number 3, and this is going to be a little bit less frequent, I think, just because the state of where things are going, but it's actually going to be traditional commercial production. Now, this is going to be a little bit different because, one, the barrier of entry is going to be a little bit higher than using it on Google Ads, but at the same time, if you work your way up the ranks, or maybe you have a connection where you get to use your cinema camera on a commercial set, not only is the scaling going to be a little bit better, so you'll have better skill sets in terms of managing teams, but at the same time, in traditional commercial production, in my experience, you make a little bit more money, which means that I could pay off this Blackmagic Pixis, although Blackmagic sent it to me. Well, hypothetically, if I had a Blackmagic Pixis that I had paid for, I'd be able to pay it off by doing traditional commercial production. Like everything else on this list, it is going to take a little bit of offline groundwork that doesn't necessarily involve your camera directly. You could do this in a variety of different ways in commercials. You could work as a PA and work your way up the ranks, or you could make a really killer demo reel of your own stuff, have a team that you're already working with, and start a production company from there. And I know, there's more than one way to skin a cat, which is still a gross thing to say, but nonetheless, that's commercial production. Now, we're not going to talk about commercial production without talking about number 4, which is going to be traditional film production. Now, almost everything that I said about commercial production in terms of working your way up the ranks, the barrier to entry, things being a little bit more turbulent now than it has been in previous years, at the end of the day, if you do get yourself on a film set, or if you're able to create your own through that demo reel process, film production is one of the more obvious ways that you can make money back on your cinema camera. You can do different things like being a camera operator, which I do think I want to try some new skills to separate myself from other operators that are in the city, just in case another job comes up. If you're someone that is a DP that also operates on the camera as well, you can do that while utilizing 2 skill sets at the same time. Nonetheless, your camera is still going to be involved, which means that you're going to be able to put a little bit more money towards it, so that $5,000, $10,000 purchase you made is a little bit less painful. Now, I don't have all the answers in terms of getting into all of these streams of income. You got to pick the ones that work for you and your situation. However, if you guys do have any questions about trying to break into some of these, I'll try to answer them as best as I can. I will also add the caveat though that I'm not an expert in everything. I don't have all of the answers, but I can try my best. Now in 2025, Uncle Kofi wants to tell you about a Chi word of the day. Now, Chi is a language you speak in Ghana, West Africa, and the word of the day is going to be Akwaba, which means welcome. So when people come to your house, when people come to your home, you say Akwaba, you welcome them, because Ghanaians, we have good manners. Anyways, back to the video. Now, the rest of this list is going to be things that are a little bit unorthodox, and I'm going to say live streaming. Now, if you guys haven't noticed on this channel, we have been doing a couple of live streams, particularly in anamorphic on the Blackmagic Pixis. Now, this sounds ridiculous, and it actually kind of is. However, live streaming is a great way to earn income, especially if you're a content creator. Now, you might be asking, do you need a cinema camera to be a content creator? Absolutely not. However, if you're trying to pursue some of the earlier things on this list, and maybe you're not the busiest in the world, live streaming and talking about your experience, or maybe even documenting the journey as you get through some of those things, might be valuable enough that on YouTube you can get things like super chats or super thanks, or build a community in which eventually that'll become monetizable. Don't do things solely for monetization. People will give money on their own volition to support you, but you have to give that value back. Anyways, using live streams or just creating content in general is a great source of income. I've been using it to offset some of the costs or even some of the downtimes in my own production and freelance life, while at the same time, sometimes I need more resources to make a shoot even better, and I've been blessed to use things like super chats from live streams in order to do that, so that way I don't go broke and have to quit everything altogether. Now, since we're talking about content creating and also earning money back on your cinema camera, eventually you're going to have a skill set that other people just don't have, and you're going to have different tools and things built up from your process that other people want. They want a shortcut to it, and that's where you're going to get into digital products. Now, digital products could be pretty much anything. You can have guides, you could have LUT packs, which you probably see a ton of, especially on cameras. For some people, it might be harder to grade. It's great to give people a starting point, especially if they want to emulate your look. Maybe they have similar types of production, maybe they shoot similar types of things, and they want to really harness the look that you have, and they're willing to pay $10 to $50 in order to do that. Pretty much anything that you put online that doesn't have an inventory that you could put on your website or anywhere else is going to be a digital product. And the more you share value about either how to use a cinema camera or just stuff you're doing in general, that's another way that not only your audience can support you, but also you can support them by fast tracking some of those processes that you've learned on your camera and your workflow that other people don't want to have to go through all those growing pains for. Also, if you want to check out my LUTs and stuff, I'll leave it in the description down below. They're great. Now, one thing that's been asked on my channel and something that might happen somewhere in the future is actually mentoring. Speaking of digital products, that's a way where you could purchase a guide or something to make the workflow easier. However, you don't have direct communication with the person that you bought it from, which sometimes might be a little bit harder because different people learn in different ways. Mentoring people not only in your journey between going through commercial production or Google ads, whatever the case might be, but also just mentoring people how to use their camera effectively. I'll talk about this a little bit more in depth a bit later, but I've had a lot of opportunities to do educational events or educational interaction with different people. However, mentoring is more of a one-on-one versus a one-to-many. Somebody that does this really well is my buddy Tom Shaw on Instagram. He does have mentoring calls, and that's a great way that indirectly, while using your cinema camera to build a company and work with clients, you can mentor others to do the same. Not just know how to use the camera, but also how to use it in a way that pretty much everything else in this list is a way that you can make money back on your investment. Okay, back to the content creation thing, and we're going to talk about this one in the most transparent and honest way possible, and it's going to be sponsorships. Now, this one might be encouraging or it might get on your nerves, but sponsorships is a way that you can use your cinema camera in order to make that money back. Look, I know in 2025 there's probably going to be a bunch of people that are very anti-sponsor. However, how you use different sponsorships and work with different brands is ultimately going to dictate your experience with doing sponsorships and also probably your audience experience with you doing them in the first place. Now, ways that you can use your cinema camera and use sponsorships in order to make money back on your camera is obviously you have to be a content creator that's creating value for people that brands want to attach themselves onto, not only with their branding but also with their money. And a way to make that even better is using that sponsorship money not only to tell people about a product, because it's really easy to do that, but also using some of that money to make your productions better, to not only give yourself more credibility and help out your portfolio and also give value back into the audience in terms of using the camera, but it gives you the resources that you need in order to make the things you actually want. One thing that I ran into in 2024 is that my eyes and my brain were a lot bigger than my wallet. I'd have these big ideas of different films that I wanted to do and different things I wanted to do, and I would use a little money that I had in order to make them happen, and they just didn't look the way that I wanted to, and some films and some projects actually just went into a graveyard until I had more resources to complete them. Using things like sponsors as a content creator is actually a great way to offset that. Another thing you might run into somewhere down the line is you might be working with clients that might be just lowballing clients and they don't have the budget, but you still want to complete the project to not only help yourself grow, but also it wasn't the worst amount of money in the world and you can still make things happen. A lot of the times, if you're someone that's using a cinema camera, you're also someone who's a content creator, you're probably going to have interactions with different brands. Having things that you can either borrow or rent, or even just doing a brand partnership where it's paid, is a great way that you can not only not have to pay for rental costs of certain things if you're borrowing different pieces of equipment, but if you are in a scenario where you're monetizing off of some of the content that you make, you could have a cake and eat it too, because you could use that money to offset some of those production costs while at the same time making content that helps your audience, that also gets more brands involved so you can do it all over again in a bigger scale. This should be an entirely different video, and I probably will expand on it a little bit more in the coming weeks, but essentially brand deals are a great way to make money back on your investment as long as you're creating value and using it for the right things. I'm also not going to tell you what to do with your money, but that's one way I've been doing things. Now I'm going to fully acknowledge that almost half of this list has more to do with being a content creator with a cinema camera versus doing things in, I guess, what we call the real world. We're in 2025, things are digital now. Now, one way you can make money back on your investment, especially if you're buying cinema cameras or any expensive camera gear, is actually going to be affiliate marketing. Now, you don't actually necessarily have to have a YouTube channel in order to do this. I've seen tons of people not use YouTube and use affiliate marketing to different people that they might work on set, and essentially what happens there is that if I recommend something that you want to buy, maybe for your camera rig, because I have so many different camera rig videos on this channel, if you pick something up from Amazon or B&H or another store that does affiliate marketing, I'll get a kickback which I could directly put into the purchasing of a cinema camera or pretty much any other camera. What I like about affiliate marketing is it gives people a chance to get some insight in terms of the equipment that I use in a variety of different jobs and situations. For me personally, I've been kind of a Renaissance person in the earlier years, so I've done a bunch of different types of shoots, which also means I have a bunch of different types of configuring my camera. But at the end of the day, one way that I've been able to pay off the cameras I had is sharing that with you guys, and that like 2 to 5% kind of stacked up over a year and a half ends up paying off some of the stuff that I buy because I'm irresponsible. What I'm trying to say here is that if you are combining some of the 2025 ways of making money with your camera, recommending that to other people that hopefully they end up using, because it's really sad when people buy stuff and don't use it, is actually a great way for you to make money on your investments. Now, this is the last thing on the list. It doesn't have a lot to do with being a content creator. However, it is in real life, but it's also not traditional production. And it's going to be public speaking and educational events. Now, this is going to be pretty similar to doing things online in forms of YouTube or making social media content, except you're in front of a bunch of people and you're giving out that same value, just you're doing it in real life. I haven't really talked about it that much, but I have been doing educational events for Sony Canada over the last year and a half. We've done about 5 or 6 of these already, and some of those include actually doing workshops for the Sony FX line. If you haven't checked this channel out in a while, I've used the Sony FX line quite a few times, and teaching that back to other people that may not consume content on YouTube but want to show up to one of the events that we had not only gives value to people directly in a face-to-face way, but also depending on how you do it, you can get paid for it, and that's actually been pretty cool because I've been able to pay off a camera entirely by doing educational events in 2024. Now, maybe you don't have a camera company that's able to facilitate you being able to do that. You can still hold workshops on your own. Typically, as you're using your cinema camera, as you're working on different types of production, as you're creating content, you're acquiring a skill set that most people don't know. And the more skills that you learn, the smaller the percentage of people that also know those things, and the bigger percentage of people that want to know those things are going to be available to you. And that way you can hold some of those educational events and workshops, especially for someone who doesn't like being on social media too much. Now, I will say being on socials probably helps out a little bit in getting foots into the door, but you can do this in a paid way where it's sponsored by another company, or you could hold it on your own and make a little bit of money. That being said, those are the 10 different ways that you can make money buying a cinema camera in 2025. Now, this kind of goes without saying, this is probably going to work with every single camera that's available. It doesn't have to be a cinema camera. And also, it's a little bit more deeper than just showing up on a film set and being a cam op or a DP. There's definitely steps you have to go through. However, those are sources of revenue that people use while buying a cinema camera in order to make money back on their investment. Special shout out to Honeybook for sponsoring this video. You're going to have to work with clients one way or another, especially if you're spending a lot of money on a camera. And having a system that's going to make things a little bit easier, look a lot more professional, is going to be something you're going to want to have. That being said, the YouTube algorithm wants you to see a video over there, or maybe over there. I don't know. Zach will put it somewhere. See you in the next one. Peace.